Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear student, have a welcome from me in the last or the 32 lectures, and today we will conclude our lecture and we will conclude the course. We traveled a lot very beginning to the end, and I will give you some of the recap at the second half of this lecture. But as usual, I would like to start from the previous summary because I don't want to go from this. I know that you have become a very habitual of this, because starting from the new lecture it is necessary to give you previous summary. However, today's lecture is totally different. It is not linked from the previous phenomena. However, what you learned about in the previous lecture, we talked about the recruitment process of the civil servants, particularly in context of the federal government. So it is a very interesting process, and all the rules and regulation are being written there, and all the procedure is being carried out under the Civil Servant Act 1973. There have been modification over time, and this we started from the probation, and we concluded it with some of the merits and the quota situation and the length of the service for the promotion of the next year. So I will just give you about that. We talked about the retirement, the reappointment, and the posting and transfers. This is mechanism there, leave is there, pay is there. So everything a civil servant is entitled about this, and all these things are being carried out under the certain procedural work framework of the Constitution. From going to the merit and quota, I would like to give you that you should be critically aware and critically smart that during service you do not have to face any of the disciplinary action. And unfortunately, if any of the employee faces disciplinary action and on that basis he is removed from the service, he is not eligible for any kind of benefit from that is liable due to his service over the year, even he has spent more than 30 years in that service. However, government has some of the other mechanism that it may compensate, but the reality still exists there. The other things are very common, that the leave, this is a provision of each and every civil servant, and there are different kinds of leave and that and this and that. So the merit quota in civil servants, this is more important, and I will give you just a look at this, that in Pakistan, in the civil servant jobs, in the federal capital or the federal government, there is quota for the different provinces. So the 10% quota is allocated for the open merit. So every person living in any part of the Pakistan, having domicile of any corner of the Pakistan, he may apply for the 10% quota. So that not supposing that how much the number of seats is, you are the statistician, you can calculate this. So the 10% is just allocated for the open merit. Then there is 50%, almost not the equal, 0.5% goes to the Punjab, including the federal capital. So Punjab plus federal capital get the 50% of the seats that are advertised in any of the federal agency or the federal capital, federal planning or ministry and whatsoever. The next, now 60% is over. Now what is there? Now what is the remaining 40? The 19% go to the Sindh province. Then there is further bifurcation of this 19%, that out of this 19%, 40% go to the urban Sindh, that is consist of Karachi, Hyderabad and Sakkar, and the remaining 60% goes to the rural Sindh, and that is excluding these three larger cities, Sakkar, Sakkar, Hyderabad and Karachi. So if we calculate that how much the 40% of the 19%, it is about you can say the 7 point something, and if you calculate 60% of this is also a sum of the figure. You do calculate this. For the KPK, there are the 11.5% seats out of the total seat in the federal province. For the Balochistan, there are around about the 3.5 seats. And for the NAFTA, northern areas and the federally administered tribal areas, there are 4% seats available for this, and there are the AJK, they are the say they have the remaining percentage of, and it will add up to the 100%. So now I am going to start a new discussion that is extremely important, and it should be every students of the public administration and any social sciences will be aware of this. That is the 7th National Finance Commission NFC Award. In abbreviation we call it that this is the NFC National Finance Commission Award, and it was finalized in 2010, March 2010. What is this? The National Finance Commission, you know, the federal government collects revenue from different areas, from different items, and there is a pool of the revenue pool. So when the federal government collects this pool, again it redistributes these resources or the revenues to the provinces. So if the federal government distribute this according to their population, definitely Punjab will get the maximum share because it has the largest population in Pakistan. No doubt that the population is still the significant determinant of the NFC award. However, there have been some of the slight and required modification that have reduced the grievances of the you can say smaller provinces in terms of the population. So we will see that now what is the criteria for this. Previously, most of the time it was being done on the population. So we start some of the background of this, and then we will see and we will go through the facts and the figure. The distribution of revenues between the federation, that is federation, and the provinces governed by. How it is governed by? The similar you have learned about in the previous lecture about the recruitment rules. This NFC award is this revenue sharing is part 4 chapter 1 of the 1973 Constitution. Now look at this. The umbrella is the 1973 Constitution, but here in within that there are slight modification. This 7th NFC award is more prominent, and it was a huge achievement of the government because all the provinces more or less were completely agreed upon this formula. However, they still need further improvement. Then it is a gigantic and very interesting task for the researcher and the new government to further modify it so that the grievances of the smaller provinces are over. It provides the basic framework for the revenue distribution between the federation and the province. There are 4 provinces and the federation. So the federation collects the revenue. You can say it is the father, and the father has to distribute income to his 4 sons. So what will be the criteria? We will just take on this. So just giving you the constitutional background, because you are the student of the public administration. If I have been teaching this course to some other class that is not the public policy or the public administration, I would have not given the constitutional framework. So the constitutional framework is much necessary for you people. So the Article 160 of the Constitution provides the setting up of National Finance Commission. ये सारा मैकेनिज्म इनका आर्टिकल 160 जो है वो इसको जो है वो करता है. सो माय क्वेश्चन इज, डू यू रिमेंबर व्हाट क्लासेस टॉक अबाउट द बजट? Yes, you can remember from Article 180 to 185, 6 clauses deal with the budget. So the Article 160, it deals with the constitutions and the provisions of the NFC award, that what will be the formula, how there will be the distribution, how this and that, to periodically make a recommendation to the president. So every time the mechanism is there, general principle are there. Every time when you talk about this, you can give some of the suggestions to the president, and ultimately if all the parties and all the members from the provinces agreed upon with the majority, the recommendations is approved. 7th NFC award was on the 18th March 2010 has resolved the long-standing issue of distribution of resources. सूबों और फेडरेशन के दरमियान हमेशा ये जो है वो एक तरह की आप जंग कह सकते हैं, it was there, that every province wanted to get more and more from this revenue pool. For example, Punjab was eligible for this because it has the largest population. But the province of Balochistan are good that they have much more mineral resources. So they need more, they are more eligible for their revenue share from the revenue pool. The Sindh people used to say that the government earns huge revenue from the Karachi seaport, so they need more, they are more eligible for this and that. And there were tussles, there were politicism and whatsoever, and every time there were, sometimes there were the boycotts, and ultimately forcefully award was implemented, and there was not you can say the complete agreedness of the different provinces. But the 7th NFC award has the distinction that it is much more acceptable, particularly to the aggrieved provinces like Balochistan, KPK. In the 7th NFC award, the share of provinces has been increased from 49 to 46. पहले क्या था जी, 49 provinces को चले जाते थे, 51 still remain with the federation and the federation use them. Although the federation may use it on the provinces again, but the general criteria was that the 59 share of the, if there were 100 rupees, 59 were distributed to the different provinces and 51 were still lied with the federation. So the federation has more power, more concentration, not only in the power but in the revenue resources, to which all the provinces start objecting. And now there is devolution of not only the power, the provinces have more autonomy after the 18th or the 19th and the 19th amendment. They are more powerful. Many ministries have been handed over to the provinces. So the similar situation is that they are now major share in the revenues. Now what is the situation? 56% out of 156 rupees will be shared by the 4 provinces, and now the federal government has only the 44% or the 44 rupees. So the share of the federal government has decreased while the share of the provinces has increased. This is good for the democracy. This is good for the running of the system. Now the share of the provinces has been increased up to 56%, and the federation has only 44%. It is extremely good for the provinces, because the more powerful are your provinces, the federation becomes more powerful, because the provinces has no objection on the federation. But if the federation gets the lion's share, the province think that their money is being snatched by the federation. This was only in 2010 and 11, and it will further increase during this 57.5, almost 58%. Now the share of the federation is decreasing over time. If I give the graphs, this share is now decreasing, and it is a good gesture for the coming year, during the remaining year of the award. So it will keep on gradually, and at its time will come to an end when there will be the 8th NFC award. We further predict and we further anticipate that the federation share should be decreased. The traditional population based criteria has been changed. If you remember, I started with the claim that the previous NFC award was mostly based on the ट्रेडिशनल पॉपुलेशन कि जी जिसकी ज़्यादा पॉपुलेशन है उसको ज़्यादा शेयर दो, इट वाज जस्टिफाइबल, बट लेटर ऑन इट क्रिएटेड many of the problem that started tussle between the provinces and the federation, and ultimately good sign for the Pakistan that it has been modified. We will see that now what is the criteria. Now this criteria is called the multiple criteria formula. The first one, single criteria, that the population. Punjab has more population, more revenue, but now the situation is changed, and now the resources of the that the federation collects, they are distributed according to the multiple criteria or the formula. What is this? The multiple indicators and their respective weight. Now there are 4 indicators, and what is their respective weight. पहले क्या था कि टोटल वेट जो है 100% जो है वो पॉपुलेशन को जो है वो जाता था, ओनली वन इंडिकेटर डिसाइडिंग द होल NFC award. So what is there now? The population still gets the major and the line weight, yet it has been decreased from 100% to 82%. So it means now the Punjab, that is the highest population, its claim due to population has been a bit decreased. Poverty backwardness, poverty, there are different indicators for the poverty, and you can say there are the Gini coefficient for inequality, there are other facts and figure, and this weightage is up to 10%. It is good that in the province there will be more poverty, they will be getting more share of this, and it is again justifiable because the more deprived persons people should be given more opportunities so that they could get out of the poverty. The third indicator is a revenue collection generation. The more generation revenue are collected from a province, they will be getting more share of this. For example, if Karachi generates more share, it will getting the 5%. So the generation out of 5%, not the total 5%. So the 5% weightage will go to the revenue generations, and the province who are grieved and they are making claim that they provide too much resources to the province, further they will be in a better position to get a line share of this. And the inverse population density, that the population density means number of person per square kilometers. So the reverse of this, it has given the weightage to 2.770%. So in this way, again the provinces that have large areas but at the same time low population, because it is the inverse of the population density, they will be getting good share. But if you look at these shares up to here, it looks justifiable that these are still very low. However, to change the immediately things are not, there should be evolution over time, very good gesture and very appreciable by the economist, and the many other people appreciate that this is a good sign. And it is quite possible that after 10 years, 20 years, the share of the population is decreased up to 70%, and the revenue generation and the inverse population density may be the other indicate, maybe increase their weight. So, and it is also possible that the 5th indicator may appear, 6th indicator may appear as a seen, and it has some of the contribution because the knowledge and the refinement of the theories keeps on increasing. The more information you can, for example, I can say that if a province is more, it is just my suggestion that we will see that how a province is being affected by the natural casualties or the natural hazards, and you can say the other such kind of this, that there is a war on terror. So this could be the one proxy or the 5th proxy. It is highly debatable. Do not think that this is the final solution. It is highly debatable. However, such kind of indicator may be included into the NFC award to just finalize this. Now if we see a chronological of this, how we have improved over time, look at here in 2006-07. Do you know why I have written 2006-07? Yes, these 6 first year month are from the 2006 year, from because our financial year is comprised of 2 years, half from the previous year and half from the current, so that's why we write this one 6 and 7. In 2007 the share was only 41.50. तो जो है वो फेडरेशन के पास कितना था, almost 60%. Now look at there is gradual decrease. If I write here the federation share, so what will be here is the gradual decrease, gradual increase over time, and you will see the share of the federation will gradually decrease. It was 41, gradual decrease in the next year, gradual further and further, and now into 2011-12 onwards it is 57.5, and we hope for the best that in the next NFC award, whenever it comes, there is a further improvement in it. The comparative composition, this is the word comparative position of share of provinces in the divisible pool. अब आप जो है वो देखें कि here are the 4 provinces, share of the basis of previous award, and what the NFC award grant for war on terror and grant for compensation on account of OZNT and total share. Look at here. It was 53 in the Punjab in the previous NFC award. Now it has decreased. It means the Punjab has made sacrificed in favor of the other provinces. Definitely 1% is a huge amount in the budget. It is not your and me budget that the 1% is not significant. In government, 1% sacrifice is a huge and massive and stellar amount of money that is being, you can say, with the other. So the total share is now it's 51.74. If we look at the Sindh, its share has also slightly decreased. For how much? I can say that almost 0.40%. So it is still a significant amount, and there is grant for compensation on account, and this is, and it's, if we add it up, this is here. KPK 14.78 slightly against decreased. There is a grant for war on terror, and its share is 16.42. And Balochistan, it was 7.05 in the previous NFC award. So all sacrifice goes to the 90 and this Balochistan. And here you can see that there is a 100% and this is 100% also. It means that all the हर province ने अपने अपने हिस्से के हिसाब से in favor of Balochistan जो है वो compensation की है. The Punjab is leading from the front because it is almost more than 1%. That is a significant amount, and the Sindh has also done same. KPK. So the resources has been withdrawn from these 3 bigger provinces in context of population, and they have been given to the Balochistan. So after giving you a summary, a smart snapshot of the NFC award, now it is time to go through the course. As I promised that in the second half of the course I will be talking about the whole journey that we traveled from the very first lecture to the 32 lectures. So what is, I have given it the rename of the recap of the course. If you remember, in the very first lecture we tried to differentiate between the public policy and the public administration. Public policy is the legislature side, and you can say that the public policy maker just frame the policies, and the public administration is the implementation of these policies. And if there is a gap between the public policy and the public administration, it is called the efficiency gap, that it is not being implemented. In case of Pakistan, like that and many other developing countries, this is a very significant gap, and the public administrative do influence the policy. I remember from this we put some of the focus on this, that because they have the live experience, they have to appear in the briefing to the policy makers, so they can affect the policy making process in one way or the other. So, and sometimes there is the situation when there is no policy, then the public administrator has to decide on the basis of their previous experience and the context of the situation, and it is a very critical type of the public administration. However, if a public servant or a public administrator is totally impartial, he can take a good decision in this situation. Then there were different approaches to study the this public administration, and I remember we spent lectures over lectures in this, just building our base on that what are these approaches. A behavior approach that just see it is kind of a positive approach, nothing telling about that how to do this. Systematic approach, starting from the first step and going in this way. Ecological approach, this is a new intervention into the system. Public choice approach, that this has also, we talked about this, and the contingency approach, that it is according to the situation. The more applicable is nowadays this one. In definition, the role of the Weber and Wilson, two giant social scientists, their role remained significant. There were other Tulips and Gulick, also we talked about this, but these are the shining star in the definitions and the explanation of the public policy and the public administration. History of public administration. From the very first day, the history of the public administration starts. For example, if you remember, we talked about that the Romans were first person who just emphasized the importance of the public administration, and due to their public administration efficacy, they ruled the world over the several years. They framed some of the laws for this, and particularly this was happening in the army, because at that time army was the most powerful institute, and they were making all their decisions in respect to this. So the army was categorized into different troops, the senior officer, the lower officer. The names are not that I am telling you at this stage, but there was that they just introduced this because they recognized the importance that this. Significance of the public administration. Public administration plays a critical and the pivotal role in any development of states. The developed countries, if you study those, that how they became developed, the role of public administration cannot be denied on those countries. But on the other side, if you see the plight of the developing countries, you will see that this public administration inefficiency has a significant role in keeping these developing countries underdeveloped. So it is equal to the rise and fall of the nations. Rise and fall of the nation, you can say, or you can say the rise and fall of the institution. Any institution in which there is a good public administration, it is ensured that this is working according to the framework, and it is growing over time. Similarly, the country is another kind, as you can say, that country is also a institution. So what you will recommend for Pakistan? Yes, we recommend that we suppose that the public administration in Pakistan has become good, and the situation is going to will start increasing. For example, if there is any of the phenomena, I say that the PIA is drowning, the steel mill is sinking, so what is this? Immediate response will from even a layman will be that there is a problem in the public administration. The captain needs to be changed. look at your cricket team, that if we say that there is a problem in the team, the player will almost remain the same. As you just change the administrator, the results becomes different. So the significance of the public administration is clearly written on the wall, and it cannot be denied in any of the situation. The branches of the government, we talked about that there are three. We will discuss this later also. That is the executive, the other is the legislature, and the other is also the judiciary. So these are the branches of the government. We will have a detailed look at this here. Just only the legislature frame the policies, executive ensures those policies, the implementation of those policies, and the judiciary interpret this constitution, whether the constitution, what is the true meaning of any of the clause or any of the subclass of the constitution. This is the role of the judiciary, and it provides justice to the populace also. History of after this we started, and I remember that there was huge discussion, massive discussion on the history of decentralization in Pakistan. Why was huge discussion on this? The only reason was that there were two reasons. That now Pakistan in 2000 there was a new devolution plan in Pakistan, and in all the developed countries the powers are decentralized to the grassroots level. So to emphasize and to make it clear the importance of all that the local government, the local authority, I tried my best to explain this. And I remember that I started from pre-independence, and I explained that there were this mechanism was, although they are in shape of panchayat, but there was not a systematic mechanism. However, the head of the village or the nambardar and what you call it, there was such kind of thing, because the district or the British have to convey their message, they have to collect their revenues, so they have just such kind of the system for the disbursements of the justice. There was automate the panchayat. It has not the constitutional support. However, the system exists there, and then there was the improvement. Over this, then there was after the after the independence, we started it that all the governments tried to adopt this decentralization. But one thing was interested, that the military dictators were more inclined towards this. Would you like to give the answer of this phenomena, that what was the logic behind this? Yes, the logic was the simple. What was the logic? That they had no their roots in the population, in the people, so they tried to just show people that they are being governed by their local representative. And one starting from the Ayub Khan BD system, basic democracy system, to the latest one, that is the dissolution plan of the 2000, there was one thing common, that the more the center remained the powerful, and very few administrative powers were given to the local level. However, in the 2000 devolution plan, it has the distinction that the more powers were also given to the district level and the local level for this. Starting from the Ayub Khan, we see that he managed for this. There were so many members, and he was elected for this. And further, there were the Ziaul Haq 1979 local government ordinance. Then there was the 2000 by the devolution of the Pervez Musharraf. This devolution plan is more important because this is being implemented with the slight modification, जिसको आप हल्का बंदी जो है वो आप constituency limit जो है वो कह सकते हैं. There are some other modification also. One thing is extremely interesting, that the political government always avoided to go for the local election. This is very strange for this, and every time when they are in a position or here and there, they are talking about that they are in favor of the local government, they are interested in this. But it is the first time in the history of Pakistan that in 2014 the elections, local government elections are being conducted. And the one more significant feature of this is that the elections are on the party basis, not the independent this. So it is in the benefit of the parties that it will give them the grassroots representation, and they will become the more powerful. Now the recap has economic growth and social polarization. No doubt Pakistan has gone through a reasonable growth. In some of the decades there was extensive growth, but overall we can see, if we have the average, we can see that the Pakistan grew at an average of almost the 5%. That is not, you can say, the more disappointing growth. But at the same time, there has become the social polarization. Growth and development are two different contexts. Now I am becoming more technical and more economical, that the growth is only that the income of the country increases, but the development is that the welfare of each and every person increases in the country. So the Pakistan, there has been growth, but there has been not development. It is a very strange puzzle that over the years the Pakistan growth has been stellar, but over the years the poverty level has not decreased significantly. So we can say that we cannot translate the benefit of the growth to reduce the poverty and other maladies or curses of the people. Then due to this, there was the fragmentation of the civil society. Due to this there was the distinction of haves and have-nots. And you know, in the 1960s, the Dr. Mahbubul Haq, that a prominent economist from Pakistan, said that the resources of Pakistan are concentrated into only 22 families. So it was a huge growth, but at the same time huge social polarization, and the community was divided into haves and have-not, and there were the distinction, there were higher disparities between the rural and the big cities. Fragmentation of the civil society. Our civil society have not been given the required status or the required importance. Why? The 33 years, almost the half of the history of this country have been ruled by the dictators. So the dictators tried to snub all the vices from the civil society. So the civil society, when it was not included into the decision making, when it was not included into the administration, it became desert, and there was the fragmentation of the society. And we can see that there was increase in the intolerance, there was increase in the crime, because when I think that I am not part of the system, I will feel lonely, and I will be away from the system. So this led to the starting from the Ayub and many others, this went in the wrong way, and it led to the fragmentation of the society. Military versus the bureaucracy. Military and the bureaucracy. Military has been the powerful institution of Pakistan over the years, no doubt, and still it is and it will remain the major and the powerful institution of the country. Bureaucracy, but one difference, bureaucracy is also a powerful tool, but one thing is there, that the military never compromise on its status, on its standards. For example, there are good colleges, the rigorous trainings that each and army officer has to go through when he has to be promoted from colonel, brigadier, captain, and all there. Is the Quetta Staff College, Rawalpindi Defence College. There is a very high level faculty that teaches to these persons according to their courses. But on the other side, if we see, the civil bureaucracy has been on a continuous decay over the year. The first reason is that the up to 50 to 60, there was the momentum of the high standard and the strict standard of the Indian civil services rule. But what happened in these 10 years, the Pakistan was suffering from a number of problems from the establishment of the person who came from India, migrated people, and the lack of resources, and there was the tussle, and there was the changing of the political government on a regular basis, and no prime minister was allowed to complete his or her tenure. So what happened? The government just indulged in government could not focus the social capital, and the first reason came for the decay of the bureaucracy was that the input was not as higher as it was expected, because the standard of the schools and colleges that were the inputs of these civil servants, it became on decline. It means the nursery was not as powerful as it should be. So after this, then there were some of the tight hammers on the head of the bureaucracy. One is that the bureaucracy could not maintain its standard itself through its colleges. For example, the National Institute of Public Administration in all the provinces. Now there is the stagnant rules and regulation, and the high level faculty and the visiting or the guest speaker are not inclined towards those institutions. So this, and the further was that there was some of the disturbance from the military dictator, as well as the political leaders. For example, the Ayub Khan and the Yahya Khan dismissed a number of bureaucrats without giving them any of the chance to appear before the courts. Courts were also the puppet, and they always the puppet of the military dictator. They are just the showpieces, and they are working on the military dictator's directions. In past few years, we have seen a different phenomena for this. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto also did the same thing, and he introduced a new methodology that any person who was in the good books of the political muster, he was appointed for this. So this discouraged the civil bureaucracy. And the last one, but not the least, is that there have been not such salary package, competitive salary package, that led towards the corruption that ultimately became one of the biggest reason of the decay of the bureaucracy. There is the criticism of the bureaucracy, on the bureaucracy. Why this is the criticism? The criticism is true. Why there is the criticism? The biggest criticism is that the bureaucracy has a lust for power. Yes, the bureaucracy has a lust of power, and bureaucrats try to subordinate their people, and they want that the people bow before them and surrender before them. And for this purpose, they ignore their fundamental duties, that they are the servant of the nation. They just try to rule the people, and they show their mighty powers that are in lies with not with them but with their chair that the state has provided to them. So every misuse, particularly in the law enforcement agencies, and particularly in the police, when even a very low rank officer like the SHO, he becomes a pharaoh of that area, and he is so powerful that every person is, you can say, surrendering before him. Now, however, the situation has started changing. And the other the criticism is that there is the red tapeism. Yes, there is slow process of this. The files start from the very beginning. It takes time to reach the secretary, that is that every highest level. And if there is even the approval, it comes at the same time. It takes time, and time is the money, the most precious resource for any of the country. Then there were other criticism for this. Then we talked about the parliament. Parliament, in the Pakistan, there is the parliament form of government. Parliament has two houses. The one is the upper house, that is called the Ivan Bala, that is also called the Senate. Three names for this: upper house, Ivan Bala, and the Senate. And there is the lower house, that is the National Assembly, Ivan Bala, Ivan Ziri, or the Majlis Shura. So these are the two names for this. In the National Assembly, all the provinces has representation according to their population. The total number of seats, including the minorities and the specified for the women, that is now up to 342. 342 members are of the National Assembly. So the Punjab has the highest level as compared to the other provinces, because the National Assembly is the representation of the total population. Now it means that in the legislation process, the higher the most populated provinces has higher share. To reduce this and to enable all the provinces to make them equally representative, there is Ivan Bala, that is the Senate. So there is the total number of 104 seats, including technocrats, each and every one. Each province has the 26 seats for this. So the National Assembly and the Senate, they constitute the parliament system. The president is head of the constitutional head of the states, and he is being elected from all the provinces, from the provincial assemblies and the senates and the National Assembly. So he is called that he is the representative of the federation, not any of the province. After this, the Prime Minister, that has the true and the executive powers, he is being selected by the National Assembly by the simple majority. For example, if there are 342, as there are in Pakistan now, if any of the Prime Minister get 174 members support, he will be eligible for the Prime Ministership. In Pakistan, the tenure of the Prime Minister as well as the President is the 5-year, and for the Senate member it is for the 6 year. So after every 3 years, half of the members of the Senate get retired, and they are then being elected by the different provinces, and the provinces have the different, you can say, the mechanism for this. Then there is a mechanism of the cabinet. The Prime Minister can choose any of the member from the Senate, from the National Assembly, to be his part. He can assign any of the portfolios to each and every person. So each federal minister becomes the political head of that ministry. On the administrative side, the secretary is the administrative head of that ministry. So secretary gives briefing to the federal ministers, and they are in a position to answer many of the questions that are raised by the opposition in the in the parliament there. At the provincial level, there is the chief minister, that is the political head of the province. There are the governor, that are representative of the federation, and the president has the power to appoint any person as the governor for this. For the governorship, there is not necessary that he should be the elected member. Similarly, however, for the chief minister, it is necessary that he is the member of the provincial assembly, and for the prime minister, it is necessary that he is the member of the National Assembly. But for the president, there is no compulsion that he is the member of any of the national or the provincial assembly. After this, there are the local government. No need to go for this. Now I am going toward the judiciary. There are 3 layers of judiciary in Pakistan. That is the apex courts that are in the Islamabad, that is also called the Supreme Court. There are the high courts are in all the provinces, and there are some other benches of the high court in some of the except the provincial capital. For example, the Punjab High Court bench can be seen in the Multan as the Rawalpindi. Similarly, the Supreme Court has its registries even outside the Islamabad, in Karachi, Quetta, Peshawar and Lahore. So these are, and this is the mechanism. The highest court, the age of a judge of the Supreme Court is 65 years, and now there is a certain criteria that after the retirement of the Chief Justice of Pakistan, the most senior judge will be the new Chief Justice. So now there is a mechanism for this. Previously it was pick and choose that destroyed the independence of the judiciary. However, now the judiciary is out of the, you can say, the out of the influx, out of the shade of the executive. Then there is the ombudsman. Ombudsman means a grief person who addresses the grief of many of the people. In the Scandinavian countries and many other countries, ombudsman is the part of the legislature. But in Pakistan, the situation is different. He is, you can say, most probably he is part of the judiciary, because he acts as a judiciary, and the president can appoint any person and the ombudsman. What the ombudsman or the Mutasib Ala does, he has the duty that he listens to the grieved person, he analyzes, and if he thinks that the person is the grievances of the person are valid, he can give any command. He can say the institution reconsider. He can totally outrightly set aside the decision made by any of the institution. So he has enough powers that he enjoys at that stage. Then there is the planning commission. Then there is the planning, and planning is how a well planned is half done. Over the years we have seen that every time we will criticize our planning system, we will see that we could not plan our resources in a proper way. The planning is the more important thing, and there is a planning commission in Pakistan, and there is a now ministry for the planning commission. For this, there are number of wings for this that are related to the planning commission. There have been different the 5-year plans for the development of Pakistan. First was the Colombo plan, then there were 1, 2nd and the 5th, 8th 5-year plans. But what is this? The only rememberable thing is that our second 5-year plan is called that it was the successful. It was from 1960 to 1965. Due to the agriculture boom, there was high growth in Pakistan. However, the all other 5-year plan were not as successful as the second 5-year plan. What was the reason? Our target was more ambitious, very high target that were not related to the ground realities. The other reason was for this, that there was the discontinuity of the planning, that there was the change of government, and every time new government came with new of its plans and this, and there was some other factors like the natural disasters and many others, and that led to this. And now there is, the recent government has given a new concept of the Vision 2025. They are just making some of the modification, and they are trying to take such measure that can improve the well-being of the people. Then there was the budgeting. Budgeting is a very powerful tool, and it portrays that what the government wants to do. If a government is pouring more money into the social sector and the infrastructure, it means the government is long-term thinking about the long-term planning. So what is the budget? Budget is just the mechanism of expenditure and the revenue. Every person make its budget, every family make his budget. So there is some slight difference between the public budget and the individual budget. At the end of this time, I would not raise any of the question, because you may mind it that I am making question, but I would like to give you a slight difference, that in public budget, there is huge advertisement, but a private person or any of the family doesn't propagate his budget. In the public budget, there is a full record from 1947 onward, but individual never keep the record of his budget. The more significant difference is that when the public budget is being designed or the framed, then the government first look at its expenditure and then try to collect some of the revenues. But on the other side, when there are the individual, they first see their income and try to make their expenditure according to this one. In Pakistan, the budget has been over time in the deficit. The reason is that the FBR has been ineffective and it could not provide as much resources as were required to mitigate the expenditure. That's why the government has to access the foreign and the internal institution for the for borrowing, and there is another concept of the printing of the money, and that is causing too much to the Pakistan. So if we want to get rid of this fiscal deficit and the skyrocketing debt, we will have to make efficient our FBR system so that there is the domestic mobilization of the resources, and the resources are sufficient for the routine running of the government. Then there was a topic of the corruption. Every person is well aware about the corruption, but the corruption is a more comprehensive term. Most of the time the people are talking about the corruption of the money corruption. There are the scandals and the scams. Every time you will see that there is only the discussion about the money corruption, that person malpractices up to 5 million, 1 billion, whatsoever. But the more important we talked about is the moral corruption, because the moral corruption is more dangerous for the society as compared to the other corruption. So the corruption is not only the money corruption, and any misuse of its comprehensive definition is that a misuse of authority comes in the jurisdictions of the corruption. So the moral corruption becomes more important in this way. And what is the moral corruption? That if a person mix water into the milk, he is morally corrupt. And if I can say that if I am not doing my duty, my work start at 6 o'clock in the evening, and I entered the class at 15 minutes past 6, it is the moral corruption. So the nation is totally surrendering, totally full of the moral corruption for this. So what is the solution? There are the solution. The first is that our political leaders should lead from the front, and they should show that they are the models and they are the standard for the general public. Public will definitely follow them. The other is that there should be the Islamic touch of the laws, and there should be the strict penalties on the corruption. After this, there was a discussion about the audit and accounting. What is the audit? Just to see that whether the executive is performing according to the legislature. All the functions are being done according to rules and the regulation. So it is the audit. Every year there is audit for all the institution, and there is a whole institution, and the head of that institution is the Auditor General of Pakistan, and the Audit AG of Pakistan is being appointed by the President. So the AG gives reports. Before talking about the reports, let me talk about the accounting. Accounting provides the base for the audit. And accounting is, what is this? Just the calculation and the maintaining mechanism for any of the transaction with its receipts. So if you are head of any of the institution, you are making a transaction, keep in mind that keep a proper record of accounting of this, because every year there will be audit, and if there are there are discrepancies in the audit, you will have to face severe consequences. However, the audit para can be changed by some of the bribe. The Auditor General presents reports to the President. The Public Accounts Committee discussed this, and the Public Account Committee is now so powerful that it can call any of the head for any of the transaction to be justified. If it is, if the PAC, the Public Accounts Committee, is convinced that by the justification, well and good, but if it is not satisfied, it will be, the Public Accounts Committee can order the recovery of that amount from that person. By completing Audit and Accounting, then there was the Federal Board of Revenue. Previously it was known as the Central Board of Revenue. The only function of this is to collect and the levy tax and the collect tax to provide revenue side of the government. Its role has been not as effective. The chairman, its chairman is appointed by the President of Pakistan, and the FBR chairman is also the Secretary of the Revenue Division. So it has the dual, you can say, the powers, and it enjoys the powers for most of the time. Then the last discussion was about the civil servants, and the civil servant, we talked about that there is a prescribed procedure for the civil servants. According to this, they are being recruited. There are the prescribed procedure for their probation, their permanent, their posting and transfer, their retirement, pay, salary, their leaves, and etc. Everything is there. Even there are the clauses for the reappointment of this. Then we lastly talked about the quota system, that how in the federal government, it should be remembered that quota system applies to the federal vacancies. It doesn't apply to the provinces. After this, we just have a snapshot of the 7th NFC Award. That is the formula to just redistribute the revenues that are collected from comes to the Federation. So the Federation redistribute all these resources back to the provinces, and the 7th NFC Award has the significance that it has changed the previously one weightage formula that was just on the population, but now there is multi-weighted formula, and the weightage of the population has decreased from 100% to 88%. There is another formula of the revenue generation, the population in density reciprocal, and these are some of the indicators for this, and it has relieved many of the grievances of the provinces. So all the provinces have agreed on this. So this was a brief snapshot of the whole course that we covered in 32 lectures. I am sure that you have learned a lot in this lecture, and you will be consulting those books that I have recommended in the course. So have a nice so thank you very much for your keen attention and over a long journey with me. Take care, goodbye, and Allah Hafiz.